We all know that literacy is an important thing. How do I encourage my child to read? I've called in an expert for Live on Purpose TV today. So this is my friend Dave Stone. He is an educator. He's a reading specialist. So for this particular topic, how do I encourage my child to read? Well, you're the guy.
Right.
So thanks for being here.
Sure thing.
Dave, where do you start?
Well, for the very beginning, you've got to be the reader. I mean, if you're not reading, why would they read?
So set the example.
Sure.
Basically.
Right. And it can be anything. It can be Fancy Nancy. It can be picture books. Just reading out loud to the child is really what's going to get them interested in what's happening on a page.
And starting when they're really young too,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So you don't wait until kindergarten or first grade to, I should probably start teaching my child to read, right?
Right.
So you're modeling this from a very early age. How early can you start reading to your kids?
There is no too early.
There is no too early.
You're giving them an example of how to say words, how to match the words to the pictures. They're watching everything that you do and listening to everything you do until they understand how to do it.
So you're introducing this concept before they could ever hope to actually read.
Right.
They're getting familiar with the context of reading and the patter. That word patter, we take on a different timing and expression when we're reading.
We really do.
And kids notice that, don't they?
They do. It's different from when we just talk. It's different from when you're telling a day what happened in the day.
Right. Okay, so we're going to start by modeling it, reading out loud to our kids when they are young.
Right.
Starting early. Okay. Awesome. Where would you take us from there? What's next?
When they realize that they like books, go to the library and have them find the books that they're interested in. And that can happen when they're 4 or 5 years old. Dinosaurs, trucks, dancing, anything that they're interested in. And let them choose.
Library.
Yeah.
That's old school.
Totally. My favorite.
Did you guys know that they still have these? It's actually a building in your town that houses books.
Books and magazines and audiobooks.
And most of them have a children's section, and they put the shelves way down low, and they've got these colorful covers, and they usually have a little harder kind of a cover for these kids.
And everything is organized so that they know this is where the nonfiction is. This is where whatever it is that they're interested in. And there's a library specialist there that knows, oh, you're looking for this book. It's over in this area.
Yes. So you're suggesting actually get yourself physically down to the library
to look for things.
Now, can I just make a comment here? It is so convenient with our tablets and our smartphones to hand this to our child.
Right.
And they have these apps, right, for the kids that are very engaging and they like them. And I don't have anything against those. I think that they're awesome. What we're talking about here is a whole different skill set. A whole different skill set from running an app.
Sure. Searching, walking around, looking for what they're familiar with, looking for what their teacher has at school, looking for what you have read in the past. And it's okay to reread all those things. It's okay to find new things. Don't stop. Let them find whatever they want to read.
So I'm not saying get your kid off of the app or the tablet, except I kind of am suggesting that you do that for a minute or two, for a half hour, to go down to the public library and actually have a different kind of an experience.
Definitely.
I had an interview on my podcast, Live on Purpose Radio, with a person who enlightened me a little bit about literacy rates and how they use literacy rates to predict the need for prison beds.
I've read some similar studies.
And it opened my eyes to the fact that, look, we've got a skill set here. And I said old school, okay? Because reading a book is the old way to do it, right? It's old school, but this literacy, you think about the skill of reading and how that comes into play for almost every aspect of life. Reading the instructions on a box of macaroni and cheese. You know, you got to be able to read some stuff, right?
Even the simple things, exactly.
Cool. Okay, I like where this is going.
Sure.
Talk for a minute about how you honor your child and their wishes, because you have interests. your child has interests. They may be different interests.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How do you bridge that gap? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I think you know what your child is interested in. You know what they talk about. If they're talking about Minecraft all the time, there's nothing wrong with reading Minecraft all the time.
There are books about Minecraft.
How to and
Right.
story mode and a lot of different things. I mean, there's nothing wrong with diary. I don't know if it's okay to mention all of these different titles, but some
Sure.
parents will look at these titles and think, oh, this is dumb reading. This is the stuff that my kid's smarter than this. It's okay to enjoy those fun stories, practicing the skill of reading, because eventually they'll be done with the Diary of a Wimpy Kid and move on to something that is
Captain
more
Underpants.
right, more classic, something that you love to read, and you can introduce a story to the child that you love, a book that you loved when you were in first or second grade, and it's okay that they don't like it.
Right.
It's okay that it's still on the shelf because maybe someday they'll try it.
That's great to share with them, though, too, because, well, let's go back to your first suggestion. Read out loud to your kids.
Yeah.
Pick a story that you loved as a young person and read that out loud to them. And at the same time, you get to share your experience and your history with your child.
And the enthusiasm.
Right.
It matters that you care about it. If you don't, then they won't.
I like this idea, though, of focusing on and honoring what it is that they're interested in. Let that guide some of the material
Sure.
that they bring in, because that will naturally help to support their enthusiasm for reading.
Exactly. I personally don't enjoy sports novels, sports memorabilia, anything that has to do with baseball. But there are a collection of authors that have books that athletes love to read because it's about their sport. It's about their interest. It's what they love.
Right. Yeah.
So
once they get these books from the library, or you've introduced them to these books, they need to make sure they read the whole thing, right?
no. You should set time aside that they get to read, but if they get 2 pages in and it's not tugging at their heartstrings or making them want to continue,
That's fine.
drop it. Pick up the next one or take a day. Let them find the thing that they're interested in. There's so many options now with the different genres and the different authors and the different age levels or groups that there is nothing wrong with stopping a book.
So don't get too uptight as a parent about, oh my gosh, they started this book, they need to finish it.
No.
No. They don't need to.
No.
You know what? I just remembered an experience, Dave, and I want to share it with you and with our viewers today. Years ago, my dad had this idea that he wanted to encourage all of the grandchildren to read, right? Because he understands the importance of literacy and some of the things we've talked about here. And so he came up with this program as a grandfather, $100 for 100 books.
There you go.
And it was a summer reading program,
Yeah.
basically.
That's awesome.
And so he was offering all of the grandkids, whoever wanted to do this, $100 if they could bring him a list of 100 books that they had read, and it has to be initialed by their parents and things. He had, as I recall, there was a list of suggested books, and as long as a certain percentage or number of those books were from the suggested list, then they qualified for this $100.
Sure.
And the others could be whatever they wanted to read, right? I thought that was brilliant to put some kind of a game or an incentive behind
Definitely.
a literacy-based program. And some of the required books could be read to them.
Sure.
So it doesn't have to be within their reading skill,
Right.
as long as they've got somebody in their little world that they could draw on.
And I think that's an important thing to note is that there are studies that are showing that listening to the book is as effective for your brain and your comprehension and your interest as actually physically reading the book.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with listening.
And again, it's a different skill set.
Sure.
So there's still a value to actually physically reading the words on the page, but in terms of the story and the intellectual stimulation that comes, there's a lot of ways to consume that content. And that's why audiobooks are so popular nowadays.
Right.
too.
And that makes me think of something that this shouldn't be happening just in isolation, just by themselves, or you're asking them, what did you think? I mean, that's the next step is have a conversation about the book. Why did you like it? What did you think about this character?
Love it.
Because then you're actually remembering the things that you read and how you felt about it and why you liked it. And then that conversation can lead to what should I read next?
One other point that you mentioned to me before when we were talking about this particular episode, you mentioned the value of allowing your child to have their own library card.
Yeah, right.
This might be the first form of ID that your kid has.
Yeah.
But how important do you feel when you've got that physical card and you get to hold it in your hands? I don't know if you remember your first library card, but this is something that would be really awesome.
I was 12 and I used mine whenever my mom took me to the library. But when I got my driver's license and I had my library card, that was the first place I went. I got in the car.
Oh, wow.
I stalled at a light because it was a manual transmission. But when I got to the library and I was on my own, I don't remember how many books I got, but I remember that was my first personal on my own trip with my driver's license to the library.
Anything you can do to increase the excitement and the sense of importance around literacy and reading, I think is going to
definitely
head us the right direction. And Dave, you're putting together some programs and things to assist, like tutoring programs and resources, and they can get to you through your website.
Sure.
davidlstone.com. We'll put a link down in the description down below. There's a lot we can do to encourage our kids to read.
Definitely. There are steps that good readers do that non-readers don't know. And there are definitely some steps that can be learned and practiced to encourage and increase someone's enjoyability in reading.
Right. Awesome. Have fun with that. Thank you, Dave. There's some important tips there for encouraging our kids to read and be more literate. Share this episode with someone who would appreciate it.